For more on the upcoming election in Afghanistan and what lies ahead for that country, I'm joined by Faiysal Ali Khan, a Carnegie Fellow in the National Security Studies Program at the New American Foundation. Welcome to Biz Asia America. It's great to have somebody here that is so knowledgeable about an election. It's going to be so important. In fact, you just got back from Afghanistan not too long ago. I want to ask you, first of all, your impressions and thoughts on the current security situation during this election process.
I had a chance to travel around across the country. I went to Herat, I went to Kapisa, I was outside of Kabul as well. And I saw a lot of enthusiasm amongst people for this election. Some amount of violence is expected in a country like Afghanistan during an election. So I found that there was a lot of enthusiasm, there was a freedom of movement, people were able to get around. The last couple of days it becomes very, very tense as it is today. So I think that's something which you're seeing in anticipation of tomorrow.
Why? We just talked about the death, really the murder of another journalist. Why are the journalists coming under attack?
I think it may be the international communities, everybody's watching Afghanistan at this time. So there are lots of opportunist, anti-state elements where this is the right time for them to make any sort of move, any sort of statement they may want to, since the focus of the world is on Afghanistan.
Are you excited about the future of Afghanistan?
Very much so. I think that the youth in the country and everything that's happened in these last 10 years or so, this is the first time there's going to be this sort of peaceful transition from one president to another. And there's so much that's taken place within the country in terms of development. There's an educated workforce. So I'm quite positive on the future.
I mean, we're going to be talking about that all next week in terms of the change of Afghanistan over the last 10 years or so. But I wanted to ask you, the world, the media is trying to cover this election. But I think more important than just the election, we're covering the change in Afghanistan. What has the world gotten right about its media views of Afghanistan? And I want to follow up that later with what are they getting wrong about it?
I think there's more of a focus now on some of the real issues that have started to come up, like the economy, for instance. I mean, there's always a huge amount of focus on the numbers that are spent. $100 billion a day on military, $7 billion a day on aid. But only 38 cents of every dollar actually goes back to the Afghan. To the local economy, there's very little that actually goes back. So that's something that's an interesting aspect that I've seen that people have started to raise. This war economy, where everyone's focused on this war effort, the military, etc., and everything that goes around it, I don't think is healthy for the country's own domestic growth. Right now, in their GDP, they have about 34% spending predicted in 2014, which is what the World Bank figure is, and the domestic revenue is only about 10%. So there's a shortfall of 27% there.
The legacy of President Hamid Karzai is because of term limits. He has to step down now. But what will he be remembered for? Is it going to be the security issue, or is it going to be more for transforming the economy, you think?
I think that he inherited a very difficult situation in 2001. And in the beginning part of his term, there was so much micromanagement by the international community. It's been a very difficult time, in the last 10 years there. And I think it's come a long way given the conditions. Now people complain about corruption, nepotism, and there being a sort of bureaucratic process in terms of for the economy, which to try and help with the economy. But I think that he will be probably recognized as somebody that did this democratic transition, and I'm sorry to say he may also be recognized for some of the nepotism.
You get the good with some of the bad, perhaps. Yes. For our viewers around the world, explain to them the importance. There's a lot of focus on the U.S. and Afghan security agreement. This has been a huge issue for the past year. Why is this so important, not only for Afghanistan, but really for stability in the region?
I think one of the things that has been maybe something that's been missed is the narcotics trade in the country is something that's provided a lot of sustenance, not only to the anti-democratic forces, but there's been a parallel economy that's been running in the country. Opium growth in 2012, 2013 has been up 38% or 40%. It's a large part of the economy. I feel that for the BSA to be signed and for troops to be staying, international community supporting ISAF troops to stay in the country, is important really for Afghans for the infighting that's taking place. There are also those who would like to have a presence of international troops because there's an entire economy that goes around that. And I think that's something that may not be healthy in the long term for Afghanistan, which inhibits domestic economic growth. people having poultry farms, people trying to cater to domestic needs across the country. They still have bags of flour which cost 1,500 Afghan coming from Pakistan.
Awful lot of challenges ahead for the country. Who's best positioned, the candidates? Who is best positioned to tackle those challenges in your opinion?
The three frontrunners all seem to be, very competent people. In Dr. Ashraf Ghani Saab, you have somebody who has that background as an economist. He's had a proven record with governance. He's been the finance minister in the country. With someone like Mr. Zalmay Rasool, he's been foreign minister. Again, strong background. And Abdullah is an old and very popular leader in the country and understands the issues. So between the three of them, I think they're good choices for the country going forward.
Wonderful having an expert here on the set to help us understand this issue. Faiysal Ali Khan, thank you very much. Good to have you here in Washington, D.C.